If I can have your attention, please. We seem to have generally worked out the technical issues, and so let us begin. It is a privilege for us here at A.U.K to have Mr. Andrew Russell here to meet with us. I'm John Mosco. I'm Vice President for Academic Affairs and Director of RIT Academics here at A.U.K, and it is my honor to get to introduce him. Mr. Russell took on the responsibilities of the United Nations Development Coordinator and UNDP resident representative about a year and a half ago. Since 1999, the United Nations Development Program has earned a strong reputation as an independent and experienced partner in the effort to rebuild Kosovo. It has helped establish and develop local institutions and is working to further grow and develop democratic governance and environmental sustainability. Mr. Russell is especially well suited and prepared for these challenges. He is a leadership and management expert with over 2 decades of experience in the United Nations. He has worked in several Latin American countries as well as in Cyprus, designing and overseeing implementation of programs that promoted social dialogue, civic engagement, and civil society participation in national and integrated local development processes. He holds a master's degree in international affairs from Columbia University and has taught development and peace-building studies both at Columbia and also at Haverford College. This past month, Resident Representative Russell and President Thompson signed a memorandum of understanding between UNDP and A.U.K. The MOU identifies human development research and teaching. It is the beginning of cooperation between the 2 institutions with a main focus on increasing quality of research activities carried out by young, successful students, you folks, and widening employment opportunities to students by providing internship positions. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Russell to A.U.K.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for coming. This is happening, I think, over lunch hour, right? So I hope that you can stick with us, and I'll try and be brief as well, and so that we can move as quickly as possible to a more interactive conversation that will keep your mind off food for the rest of the while. As was stated, I've been with UNDP in Kosovo and with UN in Kosovo for about a year and a half now. I'm so very pleased to have the opportunity to work with the university, to develop this relationship with the university. I think that obviously it goes without saying that here in Kosovo, all you have to do is arrive as a foreigner, and you understand that we have some issues here around young people as a positive force, and as something that is so incredibly important to the future development and creation of a viable society, economy here in Kosovo. And yet at the same time, there are so many risk factors and so many complexities at play here. You are a particular sector of Kosovar youth. There are many other sectors of Kosovar youth. You are a sector that is able to come to an excellent university and have an excellent education, and you're important to the future of Kosovo. And so for me, the partnership with the university is incredibly important, not just with this university, but with other universities that we can partner as well. But particularly, I think you are very, I don't know whether I should presume to call you privileged, but you are, I think, to a certain degree, a privileged group of people. But at the same time, you are confronted with the same challenges that so many other Kosovars, even with the best possible education, you are confronted with very similar challenges. And I can't even begin to tell you how many conversations I've had with Kosovars of all walks of life who are incredibly well educated and who have sort of thrown their hands up in frustration and said, I'm out of here. I happen to have picked up a nationality or two along the way somewhere else, and so, here's one right there. He's crazy enough, he doesn't have to be here, he's Swiss, but he's crazy enough to still be here. So it's an important conversation to have, and it just so happens that today's conversation is going to be a little bit about the issue of migration, but what's most interesting to us at UNDP is to hear from you in terms of your thinking on the issues related to migration and how it affects you and how you see the situation evolving currently in Kosovo and how international actors like the UN can to play a supportive role in this. So what we thought we might do is share a few slides with you, not a lot of slides, because it just so happens that at the end of last year, we produced a report. All around the world, the UN looks at something called the Human Development Index, which is a way of trying to measure development that goes beyond per capita income. We look at other issues, other factors such as education and life expectancy, and I'm sure I'm missing something else.
GNI per capita.
Yeah, and we also do look at the GNI per capita as well. And then what we try and do in different specific contexts is actually then drill down and look at both globally specific themes and issues every year, but then also in the Kosovo context, we try and look at issues that are particularly important. So it just so happens that this year we did a report on migration as a force for development. So some of this stuff that I'm going to share with you, you may know, some of it you may not know, some of it is formatted in a way that you may not be able to read. But I hope that you have better eyes than I do. You're young, so hopefully you can see. But basically, these are some of the issues that we were grappling with this report in terms of understanding statistics, understanding the evolving patterns, incidents, use of remittances, gender effects, etc. So let's see let's take it forward and let's see. So here's a little bit of a summary. And again, some of this you may react and say, well, yeah, of course. Migration, mobility, and remittances contribute directly or indirectly to human development. Of course, it helps to pay for education. It helps to pay for health services, etc. So these are all aspects of human development. While human development is different in dimensions, the report that we worked on last year and the year before was really around productive employment, well-being, and poverty reduction. We looked in particular at how diaspora, people living abroad, interact with households and Kosovo in ways that promote human development through remittances, actual travel expenses here in Kosovo, and investment in real estate and business. And we tried to provide some policy recommendations that are related to the promotion of sustainable development. But of course, and this is a big caveat, that the issue, migration in itself, mobility and remittances aren't the magic solution to all problems. That obviously economic growth and human development require a set of policies that are implemented and followed through so that we can lay the necessary foundation for sustained growth. So a few statistics then. Okay, so 1 out of every 4 Kosovars lives or resides outside of Kosovo. Diaspora financial flows contribute to 1/5 of Kosovo's GDP. Every year, 36,000 Kosovars enter the labor markets. So you will be part of that, I guess, at some point soon. While only 10,000 retire, 13,000 individuals leave Kosovo to work, study, or just live abroad annually. I think that figure will be different this year. Quite different this year. Unfortunately. Yeah, and again, 15% of GDP flows through into Kosovo by short-term migrants and diaspora. And when we talk to young people like yourselves, every third, one in three Kosovar between the ages of 18 and 36 years has plans to migrate. And that's a pretty sad thing, isn't it? And then the current diaspora, as estimated by the Kosovo Agency of Statistics, is at around 700,000. And let's just say that, statistics is also, of course, an important development issue here in Kosovo, because you can't engage effectively in development if you don't understand and you don't have accurate information. And just before we started, Dennis told me that he'd taken off a slide about the Human Development Index, and it may well be because we have some issues. This year we took life expectancy that was somewhat optimistically set at 76, more or less, years.
67, which is like 7 years more than we had in previous.
Yeah, exactly. So, but basically, other studies have shown that Kosovars on average die 10 years before their counterparts in the rest of the European Union. So that's, so we have some issues around what are the, statistics here. What are some evolving patterns? This shows evolving patterns of demography, migration, Kosovar diaspora today, resident versus immigrant. As you can see, immigrant is slightly more rural than resident you have more immigrants come from the rural areas as opposed to the urban areas. Main reasons. This is an interesting one. Okay, so family reasons were stated as 48%. Study was actually quite a small percentage. Employment was the second largest, and the conflict itself was the other one. Now, what is the light blue? 4%. What was that about? Was that everything else? I guess. Maybe.
Yes. Maybe.
Yeah, everything else. But primarily family reasons. Where are they going? So here we can see that the majority are going to Germany, followed by Switzerland, Italy, Slovenia, Austria, USA, Sweden, France, UK, Belgium, and finally Norway. So this is why also it's not surprising that Germany and Switzerland are the two that are most engaged on this issue here. Voluntary and forcibly admitted persons. This is an interesting one in the sense that it shows you a little bit about. I'm seeing that you actually slipped in a bunch of slides that I'd taken out, but that's okay. Because I don't want to share too many slides with you guys, so I'm going to remove.
Yes, please do so.
It's sneaky that way. I really wanted to give you guys just the highlights because I remember this is one that I hadn't included. So we'll move through these relatively quickly. This is interesting too. It's in terms of the of comparison between the trends. But let's move on to FDIs. This is also looking at foreign domestic investment inflows in construction and real estate, total FDI and remittances. So here you have the yellow and the orange about total, foreign domestic inflows, and then where remittances sit with that, it's a relatively significant thing. But then you have way up there foreign domestic investment inflows in real estate. Share of households. This is one that I think I did agree to include here, which is interesting again that you see, remittances from abroad, internal remittances, pensions, and social benefits in terms of sources of income. But in terms of incidence and value of remittances, you basically included every single slide that you had, right? Did you put them all back in?
No,
No.
actually not. We revised it, but
Oh, okay.
you just move forward. You don't spend much time on.
Because again, I don't want to, let's choose a few to really kind of focus on here. I mean, this is interesting as well. So this shows the flow over time and also the gender breakdown. So, back in the earlier flows, you didn't have so many women going. That's now increasing. You more or less have about the same number of women and the same number of men who are leaving. You actually, this shows how it's changed over the years. But you obviously, in earlier years before the conflict, you had much more men going than women. Reasons. So this is another interesting one to look at in terms of what the different drivers were. So 89, from 98 to 99. Let's look at this one for a minute. This is kind of interesting. So from 98 to 99, you can see that the primary driver was the war and the political situation, followed by other family reasons, marriage, etc. And so what's shifting, then you see from 90 to 97, where you see family reasons being the main driver. And then you see, I guess the purple is the total post 99 as well. But these you can see the clustering around the political, the conflict, the employment. Surprisingly, education is that was one of the things that surprised me, was that education was such a low driver, and that marriage and family. I have a good friend who just got engaged and is now engaged to somebody living in Austria and has left for that reason. Gender effects of vulnerable groups left behind. Resident status of migrants by gender as well, men, women, and men. So you can see the different types of status of migrants as well. There's a little bit of a breakdown here of who's migrating for educational purposes. So primarily from 15 to 24, you've got more women than men going. You've got in the slightly older age group, you have more men than women, and then you have there you go, and you can see it as people get older. Where are they going for educational purposes? So again, they're primarily going to those top two countries, Germany and to Switzerland, again followed by Austria and the UK and Sweden. What else? This I found quite interesting as well. Is that actually, even though many of you, many Kosovo Albanians go outside, in a sense, it depends on, I guess, on your definition of what it means to leave Kosovo, right? If you're a Kosovo Serb, maybe you have a different definition of what it means to leave Kosovo. But certainly what we found is that Kosovo Serbs are, they're leaving Kosovo to get medical treatment. Obviously, remittances appear to relax budgetary constraints of family, and so we saw a direct correlation between households receiving remittances and the expenditure on health compared to households that do not receive remittances. And well, I think this is probably, again, a bit of a no-brainer for you in the sense that people consider and want medical treatment outside of Kosovo, primarily because they are dissatisfied with the services offered by Kosovo Public Health and also the high cost of medication. Intention to vote and travel, experience abroad. Maybe we might want to come back to that later if you have some particular issues. I really want to get here to open up the dialogue as quickly as possible. But basically, what we want to do, what we say in the report about civic engagement is that the younger generations of migrants are part of the latest immigration waves have a tendency to be more educated. Okay, so this is the trend that we see over time. And that this then therefore creates a different dynamic in the sense that they have the ability to fundamentally transform also the value system within Kosovo as well. And that the current generation of diaspora, unlike previous generations, tend to be more organized around professional and other interest groups. and thus look less at their birthplace as a solution to their problems. And this is something that we've been building on. We can come back to this issue if you're interested in the discussion, in the sense that one of the things that we've developed in recent years is a whole set of programming arrangements around the engagement of diaspora in economic development, and how we can take advantage of some of these evolving trends to actually engage Kosovar diaspora directly in economic development, and directly in investment, and helping to create opportunities for entrepreneurs to create jobs here in Kosovo. And we can talk a bit more about that later if you're interested, because it's one thing to do a bunch of reports, but it's another thing to actually, also engage directly on what we're learning and try and do something about it. Which way am I going here? And then, so let's get to some of the policy recommendations. So, I moved through this rather quickly, but luckily Dennis is here with us, and he can go back to any of these issues and help us to dig down on any of these issues. But basically, in terms of policy recommendations, again, one big caveat that, of course, again, migration remittances alone will not lead to sustainable economic growth and development. We need to have a comprehensive strategy for economic and social development. And that really we come back again and again to the issue of good governance, good governance, good public policy making, establishment and maintenance of rule of law. These are such critical factors, and all the remittances in the world and all the migration in the world is not going to make up for issues around application and effectiveness of rule of law in Kosovo. And I would include in that, in terms of the governance issue, the issues around corruption and perceptions around corruption as well. But these, really, if you're looking for, I think all of us in the UN, when we look at the high leverage points within Kosovo in terms of how do we really start to create a future for all Kosovars where you can feel confident that you have a future here, it's got to begin with rule of law, and it's got to begin with a sense that your own personal time and investment is going to be rewarded by being able to live in a fair and just society. The second caveat is that targeted social assistance is, again, needed to ensure that vulnerable individuals do not fall into poverty. So one of the things that we work on as the UN is issues around social protection and making sure that we have minimum floors in terms of making sure that you have a good, effective social safety net. Because again, if you're relying on remittances for your social safety net, that's not a sustainable solution. The third point here, again, is that obviously education and healthcare need to be provided and financed in ways that make them accessible, and that the solutions have to be here in Kosovo primarily, in the sense that it's not sustainable to think that the only way to get good healthcare or good education is to leave Kosovo. So what do we suggest? So what we're suggesting is, let's make it easier to maintain. Yes, we have a diaspora; it's quite significant. So let's make it easier for them to stay connected. Let's make it harder for them to actually forget eventually that they actually are Kosovar and they lose that connection. So what does that mean? Working to create cultural centers abroad, networking events, and again, we can come back to this in more detail if you're interested. Networking events for prominent diaspora, connecting them back to Kosovo, to create a national council of Kosovar Albanian diaspora to support that effort, etc. Creating activities and opportunities for diaspora, not only to reconnect or connect or maintain connections to Kosovo, but to actually connect with each other. Because one of the things that we found is that they weren't even fully aware of all the other Kosovar Albanians that were out there in the particular city that they were living in or the country that they were living in.